evening, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to DolphinsTalk.com Daily. On this Wednesday, March 3rd, we are broadcasting live from the DolphinsTalk.com studios. And joining me, as he does each and every Wednesday, I guess it's Wednesday night, we can say, Ian Berger. Ian, how are you doing today?
Hey, Mike, I'm looking around this place. I absolutely love this this new setup that we have. We got our names on the screens here. We've got our @ for Twitter on here, and we're interacting with all these people on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. It's actually pretty amazing right now.
Yeah, and Tom and myself, we did this on Sunday afternoon. We got a lot of positive feedback, and it's something we're going to be doing a lot more often here at our website. So for those of you watching on Facebook, for those of you watching on Twitter, for those of you watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoy. And for those of you who are listening to this, whether Wednesday night or Saturday, the same old podcast, nothing's really going to change. It's just a way for people to interact and just watch us record live as we do the show. So just a new wrinkle, extra feature, but it's going to be the same regular Mike and Ian show at the DolphinsTalk.com podcast. So, Ian, topic number one, the big news from Tuesday. The Miami Dolphins let go, released, not officially though. They're still trying to trade him. I'm not sure how that's going to work. Kyle Van Noy, after 1 year, or last year this time, they gave him a 4-year, $51 million contract, $30 million guaranteed, and literally 12 months later, they said, nope, no more. So we're going to let you go. And there's a lot to talk about here. Let me throw out a few things, because I think there's a lot to unpack and a lot to go over. Number one, when they gave him this contract last year this time, they didn't know, and by they I mean the Miami Dolphins, that 1 year from now the salary cap would be substantially less. They did not know how the COVID virus would affect the 2020 season and that the salary cap would be down with no fans in attendance and all that. So if this move was made strictly because of that, something unforeseen, essentially it's a natural disaster that just changed the landscape of the salary cap and how everything works, I get it. I understand it, and that's a fair and reasonable excuse. If they made this move not because of that, I got to be honest, I'm a little confused. And when you give a contract out like this, you expect it to be for a cornerstone player, $30 million guaranteed. I know he didn't get that, but that's what the contract was for. A 4-year, $51 million, $30 million guaranteed. You expect this to be a cornerstone player who's going to be part of your turnaround and one of the key pieces for when you make a playoff run and eventually make a Super Bowl, hopefully, and all that. And to cut bait with him after 1 year, there's two ways to look at this. There's the half glass full, half glass empty, Ian. It's all on perspective. You're the positive guy.
You know which way I'm going, Mike.
I know. And your positive spin is not wrong. Well, not your positive, but the positive spin is the Miami Dolphins realized they made a mistake after 1 year. They structured the contract perfectly so they can get out after 1 year with minimal damage to the salary cap. And that's smart, and that's the positive outlook. The negative outlook is you should have never gave this guy the contract to begin with. What were you thinking? And because you essentially whiffed on a player, and now you have to eat some of the dead money. Not a ton, but still some dead money. Who wants that? And it was a whiff. You whiffed on a big free agent signing, and he's gone after a year. So really it is about your perspective on this. And the other thing before I toss it to you, this is one the fans can't blame on Mike Tannenbaum. He had nothing to do with this one, baby. This is all his career, Brian Flores. Yep. So no blaming good old Mikey boy. So Ian, what are your thoughts on the Kyle Van Noy move?
Well, first of all, in my opinion, you really can't make an assessment of the move until you see move number 35 or 36 in free agency, right? This is the first step of a process for this offseason. So yeah, my first reaction was, I can't believe this happened. Because like you just said, we actually had last year, we had just signed this guy, right? And he was serviceable. You know, he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. He was a very good player. But I think what it boils down to, and I saw a couple of comments, and I know you're adding them on the screen here, you know, what it boils down to is the cap dollars, right? He's going to end up, about 10 to 15 million against the cap for next year and the following year. And what we found is that Andrew Van Ginkel was a much less expensive player, and he had probably about the similar production as Kyle Van Noy had, right? So why not now take your loss with that player, which I know it's not an easy decision. And I'm so glad that I'm not the one making those decisions, because Chris Greer and Coach Flores are having tough talks right now. But you make that move, and what, let's say we go find another player that is a 12 or $15 million a year player that actually performs at a higher level than Andrew Van Ginkel, or at a higher level than Kyle Van Noy was. So I think that may be the thought. And yes, the contract was very club friendly. It was not player friendly, but that's the contract that Kyle Van Noy actually signed. Now, again, I'm sad to see him go. Hopefully we can bring him back and maybe sign him to a lesser deal.
I don't know
Although,
if he come back.
I don't know if that's going to happen, because based on his
on bad terms.
Yeah, based on his comments, I don't think that's something that's going to end up happening. But let's look at the entire offseason before we say this was a horrible move, because somebody mentioned today, what about Levante David over in Tampa, right down the street from us, right? He's a very talented and younger linebacker. So if you could spend the same or a little more money to get him to replace Kyle Van Noy, would that be a good move? Maybe, so there's a lot of things that have to happen before we can say this is good or it wasn't good. So I'm in the sit back, let's watch, let's see what happens, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, and now with this money in savings, I think it's somewhere between 9 and 10 million on the cap. Now, where does that money go? I think a chunk of it is going to go to solve the Xavier Howard issue, because either they're going to move on from Howard, I would think, via trade, or they're going to have to find a way to make him happy. And this opened up some money here to possibly make him happy. They can use a chunk of it towards that. They have to pass out extensions here in the near future to guys like Mike Chisecki, to guys like Jerome Baker. So could it possibly go there, some of that money, and be allocated there? It's possible. And then there was an article saying, one of the newspapers, I think it was the Miami Herald, stating that the Miami Dolphins have eyes on signing a big-name wide receiver possibly. Or maybe they're looking at one of the big-name linebackers out there who they think for the same amount of money, or if they're going to be on the books for this amount of money, we can get someone who's a little bit younger, a little bit faster, make a little bit more of an impact. So we're going to see. You're right. We're not going to know how this money is going to be allocated here for a few weeks, if not even longer than that. But I think that's one of the things here to watch, is what do they do with this extra salary cap space? Because there is a move coming next. Will it be for Aaron Jones or someone, or like a Allen Robinson? Who knows? It could. It might not, but it could. Or will it be just to keep some in-house guys? The other thing I'll say, though, and this is the part where, wow, why I don't like this move in some ways. This team is so young. It had really Ryan Fitzpatrick over the age of 30. Kyle Van Noy, I think, was 29. So
correct. Yep.
He's like the next oldest guy, which really isn't that old. And I think for a team to win in this league, you need a healthy mix of not only youngsters, but veterans. You need a few veterans. You need a couple old guys who've been around the block a few times, who've seen a thing or two, as they say. And you need a healthy mix of youngsters and veterans. I think it's very tough in this league to win with just young kids. And this was the one, it was pretty much the one veteran we had. I think there might be one or two other guys close to 29, but he was like the guy. And now he's gone. Now, they could go out there and sign some other vets, some other guys who are a little bit older in age, and that's fine. But right now, they don't have that on their roster. It's a very, very young team. Who's going to be that guy? Who's going to be that leader? And that's a question that I really have on my mind, and kind of concerns me a little bit, because I think this team is very young, and they won 10 games. And you're going to lose Fitzpatrick, most likely. Right. And you just lost Van Noy. Who are the leaders? Who are the leaders?
It's interesting you mentioned that, because, I look at even like a Christian Wilkins, right? He's young. He's now entering his third season in the league. He's never experienced playoffs in the National Football League level, but look at what he did in college, right? And and I know Miami White just wrote Byron Jones is a leader. Yeah, Byron Jones is a leader on that squad as well on the defensive side. So, and I think what we would like to see is Tua be a leader on the offensive side, with Ryan Fitzpatrick most likely moving on. That's going to leave Tua to be available to be able to go ahead and take that leadership side on the offense side of the ball. So, I think you have to look at it, though, for the leadership piece. I understand, but is leadership worth $12 million a year when you can get average play or good play. I'd say it was better than average, but good play from a player. And obviously Coach Flores and Chris Greer said, no, it's not worth that amount of money. So, and then here's the other thing. How do we know they're not going to find another veteran player from another team who's a leader? Who they'll, like I said, if they spend $12 million on another player who can play better than Kyle Van Noy did last season, then everybody's going to look at it and say that was a pretty good move because we switched out a good player with a better player. So,
yeah, that's the thing. We have to see what the next moves are, and then we can probably give the thumbs up, thumbs down on this move maybe down the road a little bit. But right now, I think it shocked a lot of fans first and foremost, which is understandable because nobody really saw this coming, I guess. Maybe we should have, who knows, but I don't know. But I guess you have to give credit to them structuring this contract to where they can get out of it after a year with minimal damage. And at the end of the day, that is important. It's just, I don't know. It's tough because I think the fans got attached to him a lot. They really liked him and they liked what he brought to the table. I thought he was an outstanding linebacker. I thought he was our best all-around linebacker since Brian Cox. And that's saying it's, well, outside of Zach Thomas, maybe. Just a three-down guy pretty much who's always on the field and made some plays. So we'll see. We'll see. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about here is what other names in the Miami Dolphins might be let go or the ones who are pending, free agents who they're probably not going to look to resign, or maybe they will look to resign. So I got a list of names. We're going to go through them, and we're going to give our thoughts on if they might be cut or let go, asked to restructure, or should they be shown the door. Not everybody can stay. We know that. They've got to be realistic about things, and some guys maybe shouldn't be brought back. Or some of these guys who are now on the open market as free agents, should Miami make a play here to hold on to them? So the first name I'm going to go on, or I'll throw out there, Ian, is Bobby McCain. Bobby McCain is a starter at safety, plays well, has a lot, but he makes a lot of money here. So I guess my question is, should they just hold on to him, ask him to restructure, or maybe let him go and open up some extra salary cap space to find some other pieces?
I think when you look at the defensive backfield, I think the safety position was probably the biggest void, not void, but I think that was the weakest position on the defensive backfield side. Cause you got Xavier on the one side, you got Byron Jones on the other for cornerbacks. But when it came to safeties, I always felt like that was probably our piece that got hit a lot. So, and I know that was Bobby McCain, and I love Bobby McCain cause he's been through it all. He stuck around when Adam Gase left, when Coach Flores came in. So I'm kind of torn, but I think he is going to be shown the door. I think they're going to try and upgrade that position because, again, if you have a better safety in that role, along with Xavier and along with Byron, then that backfield is going to be, again, one of the best in the league. So it's going to be interesting because I also know, you got Nick Needham back there too. And I know he's not up. I don't think he's up for free agency just yet, but I think last year he regressed a little from the prior season when he really got that spark and he really fought for his position. And I hate to say that because I'm a big advocate for him and I love his mom because she's very vocal on social media and we get along extremely well. But I think realistically looking at it, I think that safety position is probably one of those that really needs an upgrade. So I don't think he's going to be around very much longer.
Yeah, they have Eric Rowe, who's probably another name on this list that we'll talk about. But I think Rowe's more valuable than McCain.
Yep.
Just me personally, and also the rookie they took in round 3 last year played very, very well. Played extremely well at safety, and I think he's going to get a lot more playing time in 2021. So McCain, and plus with so many picks in this draft, and this is a strong draft for safeties as well, and with Miami having, assuming they hold on to the picks, they don't make a trade or anything, as soon as they hold on to those picks, I think they could be looking at a safety in either rounds 1, 2, or 3 with one of those picks. So I'm with you on McCain. The next name is a free agent, so they're going to have to re-sign him. There's no asking to restructure, and that is Devon Gottschall. And I'm going to go first here. I don't think they are going to bring him back. Number one, I think he's going to get paid on this open market. I know he missed the season last year, but when he's healthy, he's a pretty good player. He's actually probably a very good player. I just don't think Miami will pay him what he can get elsewhere, and I don't want to get in a bidding war for someone like Devon Godchaux when we have so many needs elsewhere on this team. He wasn't here last year, and honestly, they didn't really miss a beat on that side of the ball. So I don't see any reason why you got to break the bank to hold on to him. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you completely. I think he is going to be allowed to test the free agency market, and he's probably going to get paid a lot more money than the Dolphins would offer him. But I would have loved to have seen what he could do with this supporting cast. Because we were good. We were really, really good last year on the defensive side of the ball, and I think had he been healthy, it would have been even better. But I don't think he's going to get that opportunity.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. I think he's probably played his last down for the Dolphins. Next name, free agent. This one should be pretty quick. So my answer is nope. Matt Breida.
Matt Breida, huh?
Nope.
Yeah, no, he's a no. And he had a couple of good games, but you could definitely see that it seems like the tread is
didn't work out.
Yeah,
and they need to reshape that whole running back room, which we'll talk about at the end of the show. That's, I think, one of the top priorities this offseason. And they need a lot of new faces there. And, Matt, there's no reason to prevent. Next one, we've sort of spoken about in the past, we won't spend a lot of time on. Ryan Fitzpatrick. Again, I'm just not in favor of having him back because with Tua Tagovailoa, excuse me, just under the assumption he's going to be the quarterback, we can't have Fitzpatrick sitting behind him to where the head coach, every time the going gets tough, wants to yank Tua, putting Fitzpatrick. Counterproductive on every level. Not going to help the team long-term. Doesn't help Tua long-term. Fitzpatrick can't stay.
You're right. And there was a social media post today which asked what, any NFL player, who would you love to sit down and have a beer with?
No, Ryan.
And I said Ryan Fitzpatrick, absolutely no doubt, because he's probably got so many great stories of all these different, teams that he's played for. But I honestly think he wants to compete for a starting job. And I think,
get one.
Yeah. And I think there's so many teams out there that are probably in that transition phase, like the Dolphins were about 2 years ago, that they will bring him in. They'll add, they'll definitely spend a little money to add him. And I think he'll get the opportunity to start. And I think that's really where his desire is. And I think I'm like you too. I think keeping him here, yes, he'd be a great mentor for Tua, but I almost think that Tua, like you said, needs that cord cut, right? And he needs to know that, this is going to be me. If I'm struggling, it's going to be me. Right. And we're not going to play that game like we played last year, where it's going to be two quarterbacks in a game. But you know what? We'll see what happens. I think Fitzpatrick is, he's on his way out.
Now, he's played for the Jets. He's played for the Bills. He's played for the Dolphins. He just needs to go to the Patriots, which is very logical. And he has made the rounds of the AFC East.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked to see him. I think places like Washington, Chicago, and Washington, Chicago, and New England are the spots I'd maybe look for him to land, because he might get a chance to start there. That's probably what he wants. And also, for who you'd want to sit down and have a drink with, Fitzpatrick's number 2. Number 1 has to be Gronk. Like him or not, Gronk's number 1 on any list when it comes to booze. Okay, let's just be honest at the end of the day.
Agreed. And Denver was a really good place too that he could potentially go to, by the way. I see Def Corn added a comment I thought was a good one.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, Gronk, the only thing with Gronk, and I'd be concerned about with Gronk, is that he would outdrink me, and I would not be able to last as long as him.
No.
But it would be a heck of a lot of fun.
It'd be a heck of a lot of fun. Next name on the list, we mentioned Eric Rowe. I wouldn't even ask him to restructure. I would keep Eric Rowe. Eric Rowe, I was not a fan when Miami first signed him a few years ago. He has won me over. He has been outstanding on tight ends. Outside of when he has to cover the elite ones like he did versus the Raiders, the guy had the game of his life. I'm not going to put that on Rowe. That guy's just a great player. Eric Rowe, I think, has been outstanding, and I don't want to lose him.
I agree. And wasn't he the defender that caught that interception against the Bills the last game of the season where he tiptoed out of bounds?
That was Jones.
That was Byron. All right. But Rowe has had some great plays for the Dolphins, and I think he's a really, really hard hitter too. And I like that. I like that in a defensive back. So I say keep him as well. I like that.
Yeah. Now the next 3 names are all wide receivers, and this is where it gets tricky. And let's just talk about them as a group, because I think
yeah, fair.
It just makes it easier. Number 1 is Albert Wilson. Number 2 is Alan Hearns. Number 3, Jakeem Grant. And you can make the case it's time to cut ties with all of them. And that wouldn't be a crazy thing to say or do. I don't think they'll do that, though. I think the guy in the most trouble is Wilson, even though I kind of like him the best out of the three just because of his cap number and the fact he opted out last year. Understandable. I'm not going to criticize him for that, but I think he's easily replaced. And plus, they already handed out his number to somebody else, which is probably a bad sign. Alan Hearns, I know they like Hearns a lot. That's why they gave him that contract prior to him opting out. Hearns, I don't know. They might want to hold on to him. Grant, that's a tough one. We know as a wide receiver, he gives you nothing. And when he got a larger role last year, he gave you nothing. Not really his fault, because they've put him in a spot where he probably was overmatched a bit. But as a returner, he's obviously outstanding. So Grant's tough. I could see them letting go of all three and just totally reshaping this wide receiver room, especially if you think they're going to hold on to Parker, they're going to hold on to Preston, which they should. And will. Lynn Bowden ain't going nowhere.
Yep.
Malcolm Perry ain't going nowhere. Now, if they sign one guy in free agency, let's just say it's anyone from Marvin Jones, Allen Robinson, who knows? That's one. Let's say they sign one. Then they take one in round one of the draft or two. You got 6 guys right there. Where are any of these guys going to find a spot in this team? I don't know. So I think these 3 guys are in trouble, and I wouldn't be shocked if they're all gone.
I agree with you. You know, here's the only thing that you have to think about, and I think it's all going to depend on what the coaches do with free agency and what the coaches are planning to do in the draft, because you do need some speedy wide receivers, right? And if you look at the Chiefs, you see a Tyreek Hill, right? And he's the small, fast guy that's going to get behind defenders versus, you know, the guys that we have right now, besides Jakeem, besides Albert, besides Allen, they're not real fast guys. They're more kind of power guys that are going to catch those 50-50 balls. And I think you need at least one of those speedy receivers to stay. Now, the challenge with Jakeem, and this past season we saw probably more than any season that he's been with the team, is that he hasn't caught all the balls that have been thrown his way. And I know everybody's kind of had those challenges at times, but his just seemed to be bigger at bigger moments than everybody else. So, you know, and Jakeem is great as a punt returner. You know, he's that 88-yard punt return for a touchdown was pretty amazing. He tied he broke a Dolphins record for the longest punt return. So I love him on special teams. And I think anytime you make that change, you're risking kind of weakening that position, right? Weakening that punt returner role. But, you know, here's the other part to that is Igbinoghene was also tried out as a punt returner. So, you know, he's going to be around for a couple more seasons because he's still stuck on that rookie contract, and he was taken in the first round. So we'll probably end up seeing him on special teams if they're not using him more on defense. So that way, at least somebody is being used back there.
Yeah,
but
he can be electric on special teams too.
Exactly. So I agree with you. Someone came out today with a fake tweet that Jakeem was released, and that obviously was found to not be true. But you know, Allen and Albert, they are at a I think they're a little behind because they missed a season, you know, and it's going to be very, very interesting how not just they get treated, but all of the guys throughout the NFL who ended up missing a season. And, you know, to their benefit or to their, you know, credit, they did it for the safety of themselves and for their families. So you can't blame them on that. But now from an NFL team, these guys haven't played in a National Football League game for over a year, right? So what kind of toll is that going to have on their body? What are the risks going to be for them to potentially get injured next season? These are all things I think that teams are going to end up thinking about when they're thinking about keeping these guys or possibly releasing them. So it's going to be interesting, but I wouldn't be surprised if all 3 of those guys got released too.
Because it really does come down to a numbers game. And like I said, if they do sign one in free agency and they take one in round 1 or 2 on top of the guys that, you know, aren't going anywhere, there's just not enough spots for all these guys. And I think, you know, the Wilsons, Hearns of the world are in trouble. And Grant, you can keep him along if you just want him to do punt returns and kickoff returns, which is fine. But you're going to carry, 8 wide receivers, 7 wide receivers? I don't know if that's feasible either. So this is going to be an interesting one to watch with those 3 names, because I don't know what they're going to do. But if they let them all go and they do lose those guys with speed, they can replace that in the draft, though. If they take, you know, a Smith or a Waddle, they're going to replace that speed with someone like that. So they're going to be okay there, I think.
Just real quick, because I know we're going to get to this soon, but I don't know if you saw the Waddle question today about
Yeah,
which quarterback he prefer. I just want to add, what is he going to say? Is he going to say that Mac Jones isn't good and the guy's not even been drafted yet?
those guys,
right?
I think, are trying to help the guy who hasn't got paid yet because they don't help. They don't have to help the one on the Dolphins. They don't have to help Tua. He's already got his money. Mac
Right.
hasn't been picked yet, so I don't
And
know.
you would hope the same for Matt Jones. As he says, who are the wide receivers that you want to see go highest in the draft?
He's going to say the guys they played with just last year that he won all those games with.
Correct.
So I think fans get too worked up over stuff like that. And even if they do like Mac Jones better, who cares?
Right.
What are you going to do? Trade Tua in? He's part of the Dolphins. Who cares? It's like it means nothing. People get worked up over the most foolish things, I think. Couple more names. Ted Karras at center. Now, this one's tough, and here's why. If you're going to move on from him, you better have a damn good alternative. not that he's like an all-world player, but he's good enough. And if they're going to move on from him, you better have someone who can play at least at his level. I like Ted. I think he's a solid player. I don't think he's a sensational player. I think he might be the weak link on the offensive line, but you know what? You can't move on from that unless you have somebody, and they don't have anybody yet in-house. So they're going to have to sign someone in free agency, or you're going to have to make, if you do let him walk prior to the draft, you better be damn sure and make an effort to get his replacement early.
Yeah.
Call your pants down, as they say.
I think Creed Humphrey, is that the name that I keep thinking about? That was one that in all of my mock drafts, they decided to, and as my dog is barking in the back, I apologize.
We're live, baby.
We're live, doing it live. So yeah, Creed Humphrey is one that I like in all of my mock drafts. He tends to get to me, and I think that could be a thought. It's all going to depend. It's all going to depend on where they end up going. But I think, if they don't keep Karras, they do have to have a veteran back there. You can't just depend on a rookie to do this stuff.
Yep. Next name, Clayton Fedulum. Nice player, special teams guy. I would Clayton Fedulum, I'm not in any rush to hold on to. I think he's a guy that they can let go of. Your thoughts on Clayton? Yeah.
He didn't have that great of an impact, so if it's a money saving move, unless they find value in what he does,
Yeah. Last two names are both linebackers. I'll lump them together because they both kind of play the same spot. Elandon Roberts, who unfortunately with that knee injury suffered late in the year, might not be ready for most of this year. I don't know how that's coming along, but I'd be very surprised if they bring him back, as once again, with the loss of Van Noy, they're going to want probably some other linebackers, some younger guys in place. So I think Roberts, I'd be very surprised if he was brought back. The other name, Camus Kruger-Hill, who I like a lot actually, and I would be fine if they brought him back.
Yeah, you're probably going to get Gregor Hill at a pretty inexpensive contract. Yeah. And the thing with Elandon Roberts is I love that guy because he is throwing his body all over the place. And, I distinctly remember the play where the quarterback snapped the ball, and within like 2 seconds, Elandon Roberts had already pushed the running back out of the way to get to the quarterback. So he's like that. Now, the flip side to that, the bad side is that when you throw your body like that so hard, so quick, you're going to get injured. And I think Elandon ended up getting injured a couple times throughout the season last year. So, not that's what he's supposed to do, right? You're supposed to be a gladiator on the field as a football player. But you also need to be able to maintain health so that you can continue playing each game. But I don't think Elandon Roberts will be back.
No. And hopefully his knee's doing better there, because that didn't look good when he got hurt at the end of the year. Okay, Ian, it's that time in the show. It's time to promote Manscaped. And for those of you watching us live, you can see in the top corner here, we have the promo code with the logo for Manscaped, where you can save 20% off and get free shipping with all your orders from Manscaped. And use the promo code Dolphins Talk, because the 2021 NFL Draft is near, and NFL Draft season is upon us. It's possible that you might have a Trevor Lawrence haircut in your pants. And that's why our partners at Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have partnered with us to make sure you don't gamble. That you don't gamble on shaving your balls the same way you like to gamble on football. For all my draft geeks, I'm sorry, I can't keep a straight face reading this. For all of my draft geeks, we have an exclusive 20% off promo code. Use the promo code Dolphins Talk and save 20% in your order and get free shipping. So, guys, you do not want that Trevor Lawrence haircut in your pants. Okay, it's draft season. You want to be neat and clean below the waist. And, as Ian says, as I've said, Manscaped.com, they have a lot of amazing products. The Lawnmower 3.0, the Weed Whacker, the Crop Mop, the Crop Mat. They have, body gel. They have foot spray, a foot powder deodorant. They have it all for everything below the waist to make sure you're neat and clean down there at all times. Right, Ian?
Absolutely. And Mike, I have to add that it's not just fellows that we have listening to our show tonight. We do have some ladies that are listening to the show tonight. So I'm not going to call anyone out.
I'll put it up right now. Hold on.
No, I'm going to say that we're glad that everybody is able to watch, and we appreciate Joy Elizabeth. We appreciate that.
We appreciate it. We know this might not be for you, but I don't know if you have a husband, if you have a significant other, you might want to help them out with some Manscaped.
So since we do have a nice audience tonight, I'm gonna talk about the crop preserver, because this thing smells amazing, right? So and I know they came out with a fragrance that is very similar to this smell. So
their new cologne with their new enhanced fragrance that will make the ladies go wild.
Yes. I told you, it reminds me of Baja Beach Club back in the day. For everyone that was around in Fort Lauderdale in the 80s. That was the scent. It made me remember of the day when I used to go clubbing. So
everyone go to manscaped.com, use the promo code Dolphins Talk, and any purchase, even if it's a $5 purchase, you're still saving 20%. You're still getting free shipping. If it's a larger purchase where you're spending a few bucks, great. But any purchase, I don't care if it's a $7 something or other, you still get 20% off, and it's outstanding. With free shipping, it's almost like they're handing it away for free. So everyone, check out manscaped.com, promo code. Don't forget the promo code, Dolphins Talk.
Yep, you got it.
Now, back to business. Okay, we're going to close out the show here. Free agency is coming up here in a couple weeks. And the Miami Dolphins have a couple that I would say glaring needs they need to fill. And we're going to go over two of the positions. The first position is going to be quarterback. And before everyone flips out, we're not talking about starting quarterback. We're talking about backup quarterback. Because as we mentioned, Ryan Fitzpatrick most likely will not be back. And if he's not back, they need a veteran number 2. And there's a few guys out there right now. And we're going to throw out some names. We're going to share our thoughts. Like, we'd be okay with him. We'd be okay with him. Want nothing to do with him. And we're just going to give you our quick thoughts on each one and let you know if we would be okay if they were brought in as a number 2 quarterback to Tua Tagovailoa. And this is under the assumption there's no Watson trade. So let's just throw that out the window. Okay, Ian, you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Number 1, Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, as a backup quarterback, I wouldn't mind that.
I despise Tyrod Taylor. I want nothing to do with Tyrod Taylor in Miami. I think he is brutal. I don't know how he's gotten this reputation where people think he's good. I don't get it. I think Herbert, even if he didn't get that shot in the ribs this year and he had to miss time, I think Herbert would have been on that field quickly anyways. Not a Tyrod Taylor fan.
I'm putting up Kyle's
yes.
Kyle's post.
I think he agrees with me.
Yes.
So, next, Brian Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer, huh?
I don't love it, but I also don't hate it. It's just meh. You know what I mean?
When I think of Brian Hoyer, I think of his days when he was with the Patriots and really had no impact. So I'd say pass. Okay.
The next one I would love to get. I just think he's going to command a lot of money, and he might possibly even get a chance to start somewhere. And that is Jacoby Brissett.
Huh. Jacoby Brissett. You know, that's not a bad name. He had a good season, right, in Indianapolis before last year. Before he had the struggles last year.
Times
at the right price, it wouldn't be a bad move.
That's probably he might be the guy out of all the names I'm about to read off. He's probably number 1 on my list. And the only thing with him is you don't know what some of these teams are doing. Like you don't know what the Patriots are doing. You don't know if a team like the Broncos are in love with Locke, or if they want to bring someone in to push him and maybe compete in it. For him, that would be a much better spot. But if those teams aren't interested in that, and he's just looking at a number 2, Miami's a great spot to be a number 2 because you don't know what Tua, and if something happens, you could be thrust right in there quickly. So Yeah, I'd have him. See, Blunt Mike is at the time. Okay. Okay, next name on the list. It was a guy who was just cut this week. Once again, he might get a chance to start, though. Alex Smith.
Yeah, and I'm going to pop up the person that just threw him in the chat too,
Oh,
because he came up with a good idea. I know you and I talked about this. I think we were chatting about it, and I'd say no. And the only reason for that is
very much like Fitzpatrick.
He's very much like Fitzpatrick, but also Alex. I mean, the fact that he, number one, is able to walk again. The second fact that he was able to live through that crazy, horrible injury that he had. I mean, I think I'd be worried. I'd be worried to have him on the field. So, and two, he really, when he came back, he looked like he lost some mobility, and of course, because of what happened, right?
Yeah.
And I love his story. So don't get me wrong. I love the story. And he was the comeback player, probably not of the year. He was probably the comeback player of like forever with the Dolphins. I mean, with the Washington football team. So I would love him for the story, but I'd be worried about him if he were to come in. And I don't think he was as productive with the Washington football team when he was quarterbacking them.
And when I say he's like Fitzpatrick, not that they play the same, just that he's a veteran who the head coach might run too quickly if something's not going right. And I don't want that, and that's not what I'm looking for here. Next name, Colt McCoy.
He reminds me of Brian Hoyer a little bit. He's kind of in the same boat.
A little better though, but yeah, he's in that same grouping, I would say, for sure. Wouldn't love it, wouldn't hate it, just kind of That's where I am with that. Next name is RG3.
RG3 is he's electric, right? He's still got some moves. He can still make some throws. He wouldn't be a bad. I guess he can't really pool them together, but RG3 and Marcus Mariota, I kind of think of there are some similarities between the two because they are mobile quarterbacks. RG3, obviously, he's not the same as when he first joined the league. But if you're going to have a mobile quarterback, he's the guy to go. And I would actually give a thumbs up for Marcus Mariota too, but I don't think we're going to have the opportunity.
He's under contract, I still think, with the Raiders.
Right. And correct.
They're probably going to look to trade him because they can probably get something of value in return. If there's a team, there's a couple teams who might be interested in him. So I think with Mariota, that's the thing there is I think if he was on the market, yeah, for sure, but he's just not in the market. Next name, Jameis Winston. Now, here's the thing with Winston. Off the field, a little bit of a clown. On the field, when he's on, and if you can get his head right, he's pretty damn good. Problem is he likes to throw a lot of interceptions, but we just had Ryan Fitzpatrick, so it's tough to blame someone else for throwing interceptions when we had Ryan Fitzpatrick for a couple of years. Jameis Winston's an interesting one. The Saints, it sounds like Breeze might be coming back. They have Hill. I don't know if there's a spot, and they're way over the cap anyways. I don't know if there's a spot for Winston. Is a number 2, once again, not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. So, and I'll add that I just had a conversation with someone tonight. When you see someone who's wearing the colors of a football team, you just strike up the conversation. So he had a net gator for the Saints, and I said, "So what do you think? Is Drew Brees coming back?" He said, "No." He said, "Jameis Winston is going to be our quarterback." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." Yeah. I was like, he really had a tough go at it when he was in Tampa, throwing all those interceptions. But he's like, yeah, but he had a year to sit and work behind Drew Brees, and they think he's going to actually give him a chance. So I think Winston's going to end up in New Orleans, at least based on a New Orleans fan who followed the team pretty closely.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, it really all depends on Brees and what he does. Because if he comes back, I don't know how they can afford all these guys because they are the worst cap shape in the league. 2 more names, Andy Dalton and AJ McCarron. I want nothing to do with Dalton. Well, I shouldn't say that. At the right price, any of these guys for number 2, I'm okay with, except for Tyrod. I'm okay with pretty much any of these guys as a number 2. Wouldn't be my first choice. AJ McCarron, same thing. Wouldn't be my first choice, but also wouldn't be the worst signing in the world either.
Yeah, I don't get excited about those 2 names, AJ McCarron and the Red Rocket, right?
Red Rocket.
Yeah.
I think out of this list, our top choice would be Jacoby Brissett. Don't know how realistic that is, but once again, I'd probably be okay with Colt McCoy or like a Winston. Will be interesting to see because that is going to be a spot that they will have to address here in free agency. Don't know how much money they want to put into that position, but they need a veteran of some sort, especially if Fitzpatrick, assumed he's not coming back, most likely won't be coming back.
So actually, and this one, I don't know what the deal is with Teddy Bridgewater. Is he
getting traded because he's under contract? They're either going to have for Teddy Bridgewater is under contract with the Panthers. Now he's been involved. If the Panthers break the bank here and trade with Houston for Watson, Bridgewater probably be part of that deal because Houston will need a quarterback. Even if they're going to take one around one, they're going to need a quarterback. So Bridgewater will probably be part of that deal. If the Panthers can't get him in a trade, they're probably going to want to hold on to him because they'll take a rookie, maybe trade up to 3 even to get a rookie, and they're going to need him with the rookie. So Bridgewater's under contract. And plus, he's turned down Miami a few times already. It's almost like with Clowney. How many times can you keep going after the same guy? And how many times can he keep telling you no before
you finally just give up on him, right?
You just give up. Although there are rumors now with the release of Kyle Vanoy, they might be in again on Clowney this offseason. We'll see. Maybe now that we won 10 games, he'll be like, hey, I'll go to Miami now. We'll see. Yeah. Last thing we're going to talk about, running backs. We're going to do the same thing. This list is much smaller. Clearly, Miami needs to reshape this running back room. Myles Gaskin, Salvin Ahmed, great players. They had a great 2020 season. They're going to be back. But they shouldn't be back as number 1 and number 2 running backs. I think they're guys strictly for depth. They're going to play. They're going to be in the mix and get their work. But I don't think they're guys you want to be the centerpiece of your offense at running back. They need to reshape this running back room. And out of the names we mentioned, if they sign one, that doesn't mean you still can't take Najee Harris. That doesn't mean you still can't take Travis Etienne. That doesn't mean you still can't take Javonte Williams or someone else in rounds 1 or 2 or 3 at running back. They need more than one. So if they go out the first name, let's just throw it out to Aaron Jones. Let's say they pay good money for Aaron Jones. That doesn't mean you don't take a running back in the draft. You want to partner him with somebody. Look at the Cleveland Browns, what they have with Nick Chubb and Hunt. They got a nice 1-2 punch. Miami doesn't have a 1 or 2. They need all the punch they can get. So just because you go sign a name in free agency, whether it's Jones or somebody else, they still need to draft somebody. And if they only want to depend on the draft to get a running back and not get one in free agency, I think that's a mistake because it's not enough. It's not enough, and you're putting a lot of faith in a rookie who could stumble, could be a bust, might not be able to pass block at an NFL level, and there's a lot of risk involved. So Aaron Jones, let's start there. I've said it for months. I've said it on podcasts, midseason on. He's out there. Aaron Jones, he's caught 97 passes the past 2 years, scored something like 30 touchdowns the past 2 years. He has over 3,000 all-purpose yards the past 2 years. He is a guy who I think would just do wonders for this Dolphins offense. This Miami Dolphins offense needs help. And the best friend for a young quarterback is a good running game. And we can still get a rookie, but a veteran who I know can pass block, won't get the quarterback killed, who you could turn to and hand to 15, 17, 18, 20 times a game, if need be, is what they need. Jones is the best of the bunch. There's rumors out there galore. Who knows if they're true or not? But I am all in on paying money for Aaron Jones. I know a lot of fans don't like to pay running backs. Not me. I know a lot of fans don't like to take him around 1. Not me. Running backs matter. And I'm all in for paying Aaron Jones.
Here's what we have not seen yet. We haven't seen this coaching staff and this leadership team really either spend a lot of money on running backs. We haven't seen them draft running backs really high. What we have seen from them is that they've gone to free agents, or they found undrafted free agents. They've used some really late picks for running backs. Those are the guys that they've really brought on board. And I think the whole talk about Matt Breida just goes back to week 1 when Matt Breida was not the starter and we all anticipated him to be the starter, right? But I think one person actually mentioned this, and I'm trying to find it here. I can't find it, but we just need to find a bruiser. You know, if
Yeah.
you're at 3rd and 2, you need to find someone that you can hand that ball off to, and that he's going to run through the wall to be able to get you the first down. You know, and I think of Lusaka Polite, who I think was actually a fullback and not a running back, but still, you know, if you knew it was 3rd and 1, third and 2, Polite was going to get the ball and he's going to get you a first down. We don't have that right now. We don't have guys that can break tackles, right? The last time we had a good running back that could break tackles was, oh my goodness, my brain just went dead. What's his face? He took us to the playoffs and then ended up getting traded over. Huh?
Lamar Smith?
No, in 2000.
J.J.
Yeah, J.J. I had him in my head and then he just like disappeared. But J.J., he could break tackles. We don't have that kind of running back right now. We have some fast running backs. We have some small, slick running backs, but we don't have anybody who can break tackles. So I think that's why I love Najee Harris so much, because he does. I mean, if you've seen the pictures of his thighs are as thick as my head, I think, and he just can break through walls. And that reminds me of a Derrick Henry type. Now, does that mean he's going to end up being that successful in the National Football League? Who knows? But he's got the size, and that's the type of guy that I would love to see part of the Dolphins. You know, you get a playmaker at running back that can break tackles regardless of what that offensive line looks like. It does matter what happens everywhere else, but it really takes a load off of your quarterback, a la Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee, right? Derrick Henry has helped Ryan Tannehill look like a much better quarterback. So that's kind of my thoughts. I know the Dolphins don't traditionally draft high for a quarterback, but I'd really like to see one of these stud running backs, either Etienne. I would love Najee Harris if that's a possibility. As far as free agents, Aaron Jones is not a bad pickup, but you're going to end up spending a lot of money for him. Why not instead look at Jamal Williams? He had actually a nice career in Green Bay. He's 1 year younger than Aaron Jones is.
Is he still under contract, though? I think he's under contract now.
No, he's an unrestricted free agent, is what I'm seeing. So, you know, and there's some other running backs, too, that could help you fill that hole if you don't want to spend all of your money at the running back spot, which, again, the Dolphins have never, or we haven't seen them do that. And I don't know how long. I don't know when the last time was that we spent a lot of money on a running back. So it's going to be interesting to see. Whatever happens, we need to improve the running back spot.
And it's more than one guy. They need more than one guy. So
yeah,
you can still take someone early in this draft, but they still need to sign someone in free agency. They need more. They need some firepower back there. Just like a wide receiver, they need a little bit of a boost. They really need a boost at running back. They need guys who, once again, we play in the AFC East. You know, every year you're going to get either 1 or 2 games in Buffalo, in New York, in New England, cold, snowy weather. You have to run the ball between the tackles in those games. We don't have those guys, and they need to get those guys. They need guys you can lean on. Plus, once again, young quarterback. And a fan put up something. I wasn't going to go off on any fans, but someone put something up, and I have to comment. And this comment, really, that's what we said about Howard and Breida, how that turned out. Guys, just because you missed on 1 or 2 free agents at running back doesn't mean you stop trying till you get it right. Okay, by that logic, we should never sign a running back again. We failed on Howard and Breida. Let's just quit. We failed. We stink. Never try. That's not how this league works. Nobody bats 1,000. You're going to swing and miss. When you swing and miss, you get back in the batter's box and you take another swing till you get a hit, until you get it right. So, yes, we failed with Howard, and they failed with Breida. That's life. Move on. Try again. Now it's time to try again. You don't give up. That's how you lose. You got to keep trying. So that logic just blows my mind. Yeah.
Same person. Just I want to add this because he added this question. I think it's a great question. And I think we kind of talked a little bit about it. Absolutely. You can take Jones and then still draft a running back. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's what the plan should be.
Yep.
If it's not Jones, that's fine. It doesn't have to be Jones. Here are some other names. And I'll just throw them all out there and we can comment. James White, although he's really not a guy in between the tackles, but he's more like a Myles Gaskin, so I'd say no there. Mark Ingram, Todd Gurley, who Chris Greer's had a fascination with for years. Do not be shocked if Todd Gurley's finally in Miami. Once again, you sign Todd Gurley, you're still going to draft somebody. But they have tried to get him for a while. Leonard Fournette's a name, Tavon Coleman, Carlos Hyde. I think Jones is a cut above all those guys and worth the extra money. But if they did go Todd Gurley, if they did go Carlos Hyde, Leonard Fournette, I have no problem with. I wanted them to get him last year after he was let go by Jacksonville. Those are some other names that are out there.
Yeah, and I mean, bottom line is we need to upgrade that role. I think that's what we will all agree. I think everybody in the chat is agreeing with that too. How we do it, it's going to be up to the coaches. It's going to be up to how much money we have to spend. Do it through free agency. Do it through the draft. Just do it, right?
Yeah, just do it. They need better players. And this is the thing. And this is one thing here we can wrap up the show. Because I see this a lot on social media, on various platforms, is there's fans of this team that don't want to spend any money, or in this league, you don't get a ring. You don't have a parade for saving salary cap space. You get rings and you have a parade for winning. And we have a young quarterback, and you are only hampering him by not putting as many weapons around him as possible. Last year, 2020, the plan, the goal, get a young quarterback. Check, they did that. Whether he's the right guy or not, who knows? We'll find out. The goal now is to surround him with as much talent as possible to let him succeed. And you're going to have to spend money on that. You might have to take a wide receiver at the top of the draft. Not ideal. You might have to take a running back in round 1. Not ideal. But this is the goal now, is to get weapons around him to let him succeed. So we're not sitting here in October, Ian, going, Miami lost this week, wish they had more weapons. Well, yeah, you sat on all this money and you did nothing with it. This is the time to put weapons around the kid. So if he falls on his face, there's no excuse. There's no fingers to point. There's no one to blame but the kid at quarterback. So that's why don't be so concerned with salary cap space, or we're paying him. We paid him too much. It's okay to overpay one player here or there. That's not going to be the end of the world. But they need to get better players. And you can't do it strictly through the draft, because by the time those guys learn the NFL system, it takes a year or two for most of these guys, rookies, to learn the NFL game. They need guys who can play now, okay? Otherwise, you're going to go from 10 wins or down. So you don't have to spend all the money, but spend some of the money, okay? Spend some of it and get some good players. Why are fans adverse to not getting good players? It blows my mind. Tampa Bay just won a Super Bowl. A lot of free agents on that team. A lot of free agents. It wasn't all through the draft, folks. A lot of free agents. It's okay to spend money.
And here's what I'd say to kind of close things up, Mike, is I think everybody just needs to take a breath at this point, because I think there are going to be a lot more, maybe not a lot more, but there are going to be more changes coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're going to probably hear some surprises, a surprise here or there that no one expected.
Last year, big shock.
Exactly. And the one thing, and I've said this many times before, the one thing that I love about this organization right now in today, since Flores got here and since Chris Greer started working with Flores, they don't let anything out of the building unless they want it to be let out. So we're going to be hearing rumors left and right, because rumors are what sells papers and what gets clicks for some of the media guys, and then the what if scenarios are always pretty amazing, and it keeps them going and keeps them occupied. But until we actually read something in the paper, or we read something online that something was truly announced, it's not going to happen, right? And it's not going to happen unless it actually does happen. So I think take a breath. I think a lot of Dolphins fans, unfortunately, because of the last game, we've really got that sour taste in our mouth, and we want to get that sour taste out of our mouth. Let's watch a Dolphins team make a win, week 1, but that's 5 months away, man. That's a long ways away. So we just got to get there. We got to keep it together and let's have fun. Let's enjoy this time. And draft is going to be a great time. I think draft is going to be a great time. And I think the coach and general manager are going to do a great job for us this offseason.
You mentioned about like stuff being a surprise and stuff getting out in leaks. You can tell the Miami Dolphins, they're pretty much all in on this Patriots way. As earlier today on Wednesday, they made a big hire when they hired Ann Nolan to run their communications department. She's from New England, she's the senior director of football communications for the Dolphins. If you thought news getting out of Miami was tough, now it's going to be impossible. They have bought in to the Patriots way. She's a great hire. She's going to be great at her job. She's very well respected. And that's great. But as fans, I mean, there's been a few leaks in the past year of stuff they probably haven't wanted leaked out. This might put a seal on that, I guess. We'll see. But overall, Ian, first show streamed that we've done together. First show we've done together in a while. And
I didn't make a mistake too much. I think we did a good job. And I have to say, I was so impressed with the chat stream and everybody getting involved. I just want to say thank you, because I think it really adds a different element to the show that we've not had before, even though it is a little distracting sometimes, but I love it because I get to see what everybody else is thinking. But I'm looking forward to doing this more often. I know as we get closer to the season, we'll probably be doing it again on a weekly basis, but but this was a lot of fun.
Next week, because next week we're going to be a week out from free agency. And, as we were sort of caught off guard this week with the news of Kyle Vanoy, we're going to be caught off guard probably between now and next Wednesday night with some more news. So I'm sure we'll be doing a show next Wednesday, and we're probably going to be doing a show most weeks here between now and the draft, because there's so much news is going to break, especially March 17th is a Wednesday, I believe, is it not? March 17th is a Wednesday, the first day of free agency. Maybe news will break when we're recording. We have to do a show that night.
That'll be great. That'll be great.
We're going to be doing shows because there's going to be so much news. And for those of you who watch us tonight, like Ian said, thank you. If you're listening to this and you do want to watch it, you can go to my Twitter feed at Dolphins Talk. Go to the Facebook page. I am a Miami Dolphins fan page. Go to Ian's Twitter page at Ian693, or go to our YouTube page. Just go to YouTube and search Dolphins Talk. You can watch this at any time because it will be saved on those platforms forever. As always, check out Ian's Facebook page. Go to Facebook and search for Big E Miami Dolphins. Make sure you put Miami Dolphins. What am I forgetting, Ian?
Well, I just promised my dad that I'd say hello to him because I know he's going to watch tonight for our first live show. So hi, Dad. Hi, Mom. Good to see you guys. And I also said I'd say hi to the Nachos crew. So hi, Nachos crew.
There you go. And plus, I also did a podcast with the only Miami Dolphins podcast in the UK on yesterday. So if you go to my Twitter feed, you can hear me as a guest on the Dolphins UK podcast. It was Andy, Simon, and Lee, three great guys. And I talked a lot. I said a lot of the same stuff I probably said here tonight, but if you want to hear me on with them and get their perspective on some matters as well, check that out. Manscaped, 20% off promo code Dolphins Talk. And one tease. We're going to end with a tease. We're going to have a new show, a new podcast soon. I don't want to say too much. Ian knows about it. But
I love the idea.
Not till it drops. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to involve a lot of people. And we'll probably have the first show in a week or two, I'd say. And Ian and myself, probably after we hang up here, are going to talk about this for a bit because I got some ideas. So be on the lookout for a new show from DolphinsTalk.com. Everyone have a great Wednesday night, and we'll talk to you again after a while.
Fins up, everybody. Thank you.